It's more than just another radio show. It's a beacon of truth. Fasten your seatbelt and find out why they call Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers the dynamic deacon. Join Deacon Harold for a fast-paced hour that sheds encouraging light on today's culture. Welcome to Beacon of Truth with your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Beacon of Truth. I am your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and you're listening on the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network. Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope you're well, we're only a second day into it, but I hope that it's off to a good start for you, that you're still resolved with your New Year's resolutions, and I hope that your 2025 will be truly a year of blessing. Will you open your heart more deeply to receive everything the Lord wants to give you this year? Do you have the courage to follow Him, maybe even more closely than you ever have? And, just wait for the Lord to lead and then follow in His way. I think that should be the theme of 2025. Very excited today. We're kicking off this new year with Dr. Gray Popchak, who's going to talk to us about a great program that he's developed after doing some research on, keeping kids Catholic. That's like the number one thing that I hear, the biggest struggle that people have in parishes. We ask, what's your number one concern? What's your number one? Oh, my kid's away from the church, and I don't know what happened. They went to Catholic school, and they got confirmed, and they went to youth group, and they went to Mass with us every week. And, parish after parish after parish, event after event, I hear that same thing over and over again. And everybody knows, what can we do? What can we do? Well, if you're a family that's with kids still in the home now, there's a result of amazing new research that's been done by Dr. Popchak. It's as a great new program called Catholic Households on Mission. We're going to learn all about that today on Beacon of Truth. And of course, as usual, would love for you to be with us today. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com. And so where in the world am I? Well, I'm home, right? I've been home for a while now, which has been great. I mean, this is, I think, the biggest break I've had from traveling in over a year. So it was really nice to be home for most of December. We had our little family trip with the twins, to celebrate their 22nd birthday. And so now, New Year's kicked off, and I'm going to be heading out again in a couple days, back at it again, in a very, very busy year, very busy travel year for me this year. So if you want to see where I'm going to be, just go to my website, deaconharold.com, and just click on schedule in the page header and see where I'll be actually you could look for this year. And hopefully you'll be joining us for some of the pilgrimages that we have coming up later this year. Would love to have you join us. Again, just go to my website, deaconharold.com, click on the pilgrimages tab, and join us for one of our amazing pilgrimages experiences this year. Would absolutely love to have you join, but it's not too late to sign up. So go ahead and take a look at those. We have May. We're going to the Footsteps of Mary, right? So we're going to Portugal, Spain, and France, and then we're staying in France for our Saints of France pilgrimages, and both of those are with Father John Paul from the MFVA Friars, Franciscan Missionaries of the Eternal Word. And then we're going to Greece, Footsteps of St. Paul, and Father Mark Mary is going to be coming with us on that. And then we're going to be going to Poland in August, Divine Mercy Pilgrimage, Poland and Hungary, and Czech Republic. And then we're going to Italy in October of this year. We're going to be doing Eucharistic miracles during this holy year, which has been called forth by Pope Francis. So, yeah, would just take a look at that. Would absolutely love to have you join us, and it's going to be absolutely incredible. And what's also incredible is that we're kicking off this new year with that same great group of people that bring you this show each and every day. Matt Gabinski screening the calls, and Michael McCall doing social media. and our producer extraordinaire, Ace McKay. How you doing, Ace?
Yeah, same great taste, new rapper. That's my angle for this year. It's what you know and love.
All right.
It's kind of cool. Awesome. I love that we're tackling this topic today because I found as my kids have gotten older, they are more traditional and more rooted in their faith and the things that they want to be a part of when they're at church than I realized. Because especially like with kids in theater, like a lot of times you don't get to say when rehearsal is. And granted, they could miss, but then they also miss things from rehearsal. So we've just worked it out that when you can go, you go. When you can't, then you give your all. And so it's worked. But what's crazy in my mind is I remember as a teen, like I was all about being social, right? I was like, let's go to the social. I was like, you're not missing church. So we were there every time the doors were open, which I'm very thankful for. And allowing your kids to miss and then them missing and feeling a sense of that something is missing when they're not there. I love that because they're getting to that age where they could easily go, church is not really my thing, or my friends don't go, or whatever. And we have had those discussions about not letting the culture or your friends talk you out of where you're at with God. And so I love that they miss it when they're not there.
Yeah, I totally get that. And, because it has to be more than just another gathering, social gathering where their friends are going to be in attendance.
Right.
Yes. At that age, obviously, their friends become important. There's that natural separation from the parents, because when you're little, obviously you feel almost like you're attached, like part of your parents.
Sure.
But then comes that natural stage where there's that natural separation that happens, and their friend group and peer groups become important. And that's all fine, but there has to be something that shows that worship is something that's different, something that's special. And one of the things that we did with our kids, besides making sure that they come to Mass with us, that we did some things at home as well. Like we read one of the small things we did, we read the gospel for the coming Sunday at dinner, either like Wednesday or Thursday night.
Yeah.
And we just talk about it, so that when we went to Mass on Sunday, they weren't hearing the gospel reading for the first time. And they were listening to the homily because they wanted to see if Father was going to mention any of the things that we talked about when we discussed those readings at dinner. Yeah. So little things like that. But but St. John Paul II called the family the domestic church, the church of the home.
Right.
Because that's really should be the place where you fall in love with Jesus.
Yeah.
But we don't want to make the mistake of just thinking that our responsibility as parents are simply to feed the kids, clothe them, get them to their activities, and not do anything with the faith. Because and I think the big mistake that we're doing, Ace, is that we're outsourcing our responsibility of teaching our children the faith or being examples to them. I think a lot of parents will. I'm generalizing here. I'm not saying every parent does this, but in general, we kind of push that responsibility off to Catholic schools or to youth group or to confirmation class, or they'll do it. My job is to do this, and the church's job is to teach my kid about the faith. Well, no, it has to be both and, because yes, they learn things about Jesus in those other areas, but they have to learn. They also have to fall in love. It's all about a deep, intimate, personal relationship with Jesus, and I personally don't believe that can happen solely by youth group or even going to Mass. Quite frankly, if they don't understand why they're there, then they don't. Then to them it's boring. It's just another thing of wasting an hour of my time.
Yeah.
But there has to be that connection with the home. I think it has to be both and.
Well, and I know, especially with my daughter, who's probably more of a traditionalist than my son is, but when they miss even serving in the service, like, in any level that, you can let a teenage child be involved. But then when I see them excited about sharing that with their friends about, oh yeah, I got to, be crucible today, or, whatever it was, I got to do the readings or whatever it was, then their fire for their faith bleeds over onto their friends. We're like, I I don't even go to church, or we used to go, but I don't go anymore.
Yeah.
Like to see that fire in a kid. I mean, as adults, we need to be setting the tone at home for sure. But to see it ends up being reciprocated, right? If they see my wife and I, praying together or excited about what's going on in our walk with God, and then they're equally as excited, and they feel that absence and that missing part of it, like then we're just sharing that fire back and forth. That spark is always being reignited.
Yeah, and their friends begin to say, what do they have that I don't have? And then it begins that incredible journey of discovery.
Yeah.
About a relationship with Jesus.
Amen.
All right. We're talking with Dr. Gray Popchak today, Beacon of Truth. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com. Yeah, that's awesome.
We need more bass in 2025.
Continental breakfast time.
Got some vocal in there too. Oh, all right.
Because I'm a firm believer, any kind of lyric can make you, like, it sticks out, right? You get that. Do you ever do that, like, as a musician, like you hear a beat or something and you kind of start to lyricize what could go there?
Yeah, especially if you're a songwriter. Yeah. Absolutely.
Just need the groove.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, because we don't often have vocals in these little musical interludes here, so that's pretty cool.
We'll find them when we get them. Our budget is expanded from $3 to $4, so we can get there.
We listen to Beacon of Truth. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke Sivers, and today we're going to be talking with Dr. Gray Popchak about the work that he's doing, especially an incredible new initiative. You're going to want to share this episode with all of your friends, especially those who have kids still at home. It's called Catholic Households on Mission. We're going to learn all about that here on Beacon of Truth today. We'd love to hear from you as usual. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com.
Don't forget, social media platforms allow you to stay connected. If you are a Spotify fan, then whether it's podcasts or live shows, you can check out Beacon of Truth, obviously Soulful Psalms, and many others when you download. And already, or if you're using Spotify, make sure you just subscribe so you don't miss future episodes, and search EWTN today.
All right. Well, when you hear that music, that means it's time for the Soulful Psalms segment of Beacon of Truth. The Soulful Psalms is where we break open God's Word in the book of sung praises, the Psalms from the wisdom literature of the Old Testament that we hear in every holy sacrifice of the Mass to connect it more deeply to your everyday lived experience. And of course, I'm using the Revised Grail Psalms, the new translation of the Psalms that's been approved for use in the Holy Sacrifice of the Mass and prepared by the Benedictine monks of Conception Abbey. And today we're going to finish off Psalm 81. Psalm 81 is by Asaph. That's in Book 3 of the Psalms, Psalms 73 to 89. And those Psalms 73 to 83, are by Asaph. So we've already looked at most of the Psalms. We're going to start at verse 14 of Psalm 81. And remember, you can download all of these Soulful Psalm segments from the EWTN app or EWTNPodcastCentral.com or, Spotify or iTunes or whatever your favorite podcast medium is. All right, Psalm 81, verse 14. Oh, that my people would heed me, that Israel would walk in my ways. At once I would subdue their foes, turn my hand against their enemies. So evidently here, Israel is struggling in their relationship with God. And in the midst of this struggle, they're kind of looking toward other avenues to resolve their problems instead of looking to God. So in a sense, Asaph here is putting words in God's mouth. It's like God is saying, oh, that my people would heed me. Hey, Israel, turn back. You want your solutions? Don't look for it in the world. Look to me. And he's saying, if you do that at once, I would, subdue your foes and crush your enemies before you. And he continues in verse 16, those who hate the Lord would cringe before him, and their subjection would last forever. But Israel I would feed with finest wheat and satisfy with honey from the rock. So those who turn their backs on the Lord, they're going to fall into the own pit that they've made. They're going to have to suffer the consequences of their own free will decision to say no to God. And that subjection will last forever. To me, it's alluding to the fires of hell, right? Separation from God forever, which is what hell is. The free will decision to say no forever to God's invitation to love, life, intimacy, and communion. But he says, but Israel I would feed with finest wheat and fill them with honey from the rock. Kind of a little throwback there to Exodus, right? We fed them with the manna from heaven, and instead of water from the rock, they're saying here, satisfied with honey from the rock. The sweet taste of God's love and incredible divine mercy working our lives is even sweeter than honey, right? And another psalm talks about it's even sweeter than honey from the comb. So the lesson here is to always savor the sweetness of the Lord working in our lives and not to look to the culture for answers to life's questions or struggles. All right. Well, it's my great pleasure now to introduce our guest today. No stranger to the EWTN radio family. His show has been on with his wife, Lisa. Dr. Greg Popchak and Lisa have a wonderful show, More to Life, which has been on EWTN for quite some time now. You know them, you love them. But for those of you who may not have heard of Dr. Greg Popchak before, he's the founder and executive director of Pastoral Solutions Institute. He authored almost 20 popular books and programs integrating Catholic theology and counseling. Right? You heard me call him Dr. Popchak. He's a psychologist, and he's an expert on the practical applications of St. John Paul the Great's theology of the body. And again, as I mentioned with his wife Lisa, they host More to Life, which is a call-in program heard right here on EWTN Radio, Monday to Friday, at 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central, on almost 400 stations, EWTN affiliates, and on Sirius XM satellite radio as well. So I'd like to welcome to Beacon of Truth, Dr. Greg Popchak. Hey, Dr. Greg.
Hey, Deacon.
Yeah, great that you're here today. I'm so glad that you're able to join us.
I'm thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
All right. So for those who may not be familiar with you, because I know right now that this episode is going to be shared far and wide, given the topic that we're discussing.
Sure.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Maybe your faith journey. Have you always been Catholic? Was there a time that you struggled with your faith, so that the people listening get to know you a little bit?
Yeah. So I was really blessed. My parents were involved in the charismatic renewal when I was growing up, and I started going to prayer meetings when I was 5. And my mom complained to the director of the group that there wasn't anything for families. She was seeing parents, leaving their kids at home and going to the prayer meetings as adults. And so the head of the group said, "Great, next week you should have something for the kids." So after a lot of kind of stumbling around, she put together a Life in the Spirit, adapted Life in the Spirit for kids. And I was one of the first groups to go through, and then I was about 6 years old when I received baptism in the Holy Spirit, and it was before my first communion and first confession. And I have to say, it gave me a very different perspective on all the sacraments coming up, and I had a very powerful and personal connection with God through through the sacraments coming up. And I won't say that, that my whole journey was always easy, but I'm blessed that I didn't have the same kind of struggles that I saw a lot of my friends having in terms of being tempted to leave the faith. I know that there were lots of times in my life where I've really identified with the apostles, where, saying, Lord, where will I go? I maybe I wanted to leave, or I was frustrated, or I was wrestling with different things of the faith, but I couldn't deny my faith or Christ any more than I could deny myself. So it's been a very blessed journey, and I'm happy to say that we've been able to pass that same kind of faith on to our adult children as well. And it's a gift that God has really given my wife and I, and me personally through my family, but that I would love to be able to share with the whole church, because as you were saying in the introductory comments, the most common question we get is, what happened? How come our kids aren't Catholic? How can we raise Catholic kids? What do we do to get our kids back into the church? I mean, it's agonizing. The pain that the parents feel when their kids are either struggling in their faith or leaving the faith. And we believe that through the research we've done and through the work that we do, we found some answers to that question.
And how did you discover your vocation to become a psychologist? I mean, was that were you just something you were always interested in, or was it how did you discover that? That's pretty awesome.
No, well, thank you. I actually thought I was going to be a priest from second grade on. I was convinced that I had a call to the priesthood, and it was the strangest thing. I went to undergrad seminary. And within 2 weeks of being there, I really realized that I wasn't called to the priesthood, and I thought maybe I was just homesick, or something. So I stuck out the year, right? But as I prayed about it, I realized that I had believed that the only way to serve the church was really, or the best way to serve the church was through the priesthood. And in the course of that year, I began to discover the idea that's really grown now for me, in the idea of the lay priesthood and what that really means to all of us as Catholics, and to be in lay ministry. And I really felt the Lord calling me into that role. And I had always been the person that my friends would come to talk to about their problems or the challenges, and so it just seemed to be a natural fit. I was just gravitated naturally towards psychology after I left the seminary, but I always wanted to serve the church and serve families, and so even in my secular studies, that was my desire all along, was to be able to do some kind of ministry work when I got out.
Oh, that's awesome. And what was there a particular branch of psychology that you studied or were particularly interested in?
Well, it was marriage and family work and cognitive psychology. But then, the thing that really helped me integrate that into the faith is my study of the theology of the body, because St. John Paul's work in the theology of the body, he called it, an anthropology. In other words, a Christian vision of how what leads to a fulfilling life. And what Christian man is called to, which is really what psychology is all about, right? The study of the person and what leads to our fulfillment and our flourishing. And so the theology of the body provides a theological framework for understanding that Christian path to flourishing, and the psychological training that I've received and now share with the associates that work with me at CatholicCounselors.com becomes that practical framework that enables us to live out that vision that St. John Paul laid out in his theology of the body.
Yeah, so CatholicCounselors.com then is kind of the apostle where you it's online, right? We do online counseling.
Yeah, it's all virtual counseling. So we've been doing telephone based or virtually based Catholic pastoral counseling since 1999. It's become more popular now since the pandemic. Yeah. Everybody and their uncle's doing it now, but we've been doing it for over 25 years now.
Oh, that's fantastic. I didn't realize it was. I know I've heard of the great work that you're doing, but I didn't realize it was going on for that long. That's fantastic.
Yeah, we have 20 counselors, and we do over 30,000 sessions a year with Catholics all over the world.
Wow. That is awesome. Well, when we come back, we're going to continue our discussion with Dr. Greg Popchak, psychologist and host, along with his wife, with More to Life on EWTN. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com.
This reminds me of that SNL sketch where this Chris Kattan is going back and forth like this.
Yeah, it definitely has that late 80s vibe.
Yeah.
Cure kind of thing.
When synthesizers ruled the world.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, kind of that. Right, the pre-grunge era, like right in there,
100%.
Yeah, it definitely reminds me of college for sure. Awesome. Because I just love how music just evokes memories like that,
Oh yeah,
same. It puts you right back in a place, like you can almost feel it, what it was like when you were back at that time.
Yep.
I love how music does that.
I got to get my goth wardrobe out of mothballs.
We keep telling Deacon he needs to grow his afro back, but he won't do it. So.
Oh, no. Those days are long gone, my friends. Long gone.
There are miracles, but not like that.
That's right. But plus, it'd all be gray. It'd be a gray fro, not an afro. That's for sure. We're listening to Beacon of Truth. I'm your host, Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. And today we're talking with Dr. Greg Popchak, who, of course, you hear him every day right here on EWTN Radio with his wife, Lisa, on their very popular EWTN show, More to Life, heard Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Central on EWTN Radio and Sirius XM Satellite as well. Dr. Popchak is a fellow with the American Association of Pastoral Counselors and a board-certified psychologist with the American Board of Examiners in Clinical Social Work. And he's even an award winner of the Richard M. Hogan Award for contributions to social sciences. So a man of incredible skill and talent. He's with us today to talk about an incredible apostolate that he has with his wife Lisa called Catholic Households on Mission. So many people struggle with their kids away from the church. And the aftermath, okay, like what happened? They went to Catholic school and they went to youth group and all this stuff, and I don't know what happened. So what can we do to stave that off? Like if those who still have kids at home, those who maybe are struggling with their kids wanting to stay in the faith, what can we do about that? Well, that's what we're talking about today with Dr. Greg Popchak. Would love to hear from you today. Send us an email, beacon@EWTN.com.
Of course, we do want to let you know that Mast Appeal this Saturday morning is when you can catch it with Kelly Mast. Of course, if you want to call in Kelly Mast as you check out more of the family-friendly topics that help you to take that into your Catholic faith. So find out about that more. 9 Eastern, Saturday morning on EWTN Radio.
All right. Well, let's just dive right in because I know so many people are going to want to share this episode with so many parents, families who are struggling with this issue of their kids and remaining in the Catholic faith, and where they're making decisions and living their faith from a relationship with Jesus Christ, not in a sense of obligation or responsibility because they have to, but because out of a relationship of love and intimacy with the Lord. So let's dive in, Dr. Popchak. Great to have you here. So tell us, let's start from the beginning of how you came up with this idea for Catholic Households on Mission, and
Sure.
how and the genesis of it, how it all came about.
Yeah, so there are sort of two major events that preceded the launch of the Catholic Households on Mission platform. The first was a theological conference that we sponsored at Notre Dame in 2019. It was called the Catholic Catholic conference on spirituality and family life. And we had a gathering of over 50 theologians, social scientists, pastoral ministry folks. The folks from the USCCB Secretariat for Marriage and Family Life were there. And we were looking at renewing Catholic family life. And this was before the pandemic, before people were even focused on the domestic church. And so I think it was a providential gathering. But we were really looking at, the research that's available in both family well-being and in what's called faith transmission, the ability to pass faith on one generation to the next, and how we could more effectively help families live all that out. And then the second thing we did a research project with the Center for Applied Research of the Apostolate at Georgetown University. that was looking basically at how well Catholic families are doing at passing the faith on, and then what could be done to help them do it better. The sad news from that study was that we confirmed that we are losing 85% of Catholic children. 85% of kids raised in Catholic homes will fall away from the faith by the time they reach adulthood. But the good news in that, we found families who successfully raised all of their children to a faithful adulthood. And we interviewed those families to see, not just the parents, we interviewed the adult kids too. So we could get a kind of a two-generational perspective on what made the difference. And we identified 12 practices that these families engaged in that weren't just about the faith, but were about their family life. And what the research really showed was that, unfortunately, the advice that most Catholic parents get about what it takes to raise faithful kids is, well, I'm going to say wrong, but it's not exactly wrong. It's incomplete, right? Because when we get calls on the radio show about this, it's, look, I did all the things, right? We went to Mass every Sunday. We sent our kids to Catholic school, and we sacrificed to do that. We sent them to youth group, and now they've fallen away. What happened? Well, those things are all really important, especially, participating regularly in the sacraments. But if we want any of those things to stick, what the research that we did found was that the faith has to be experienced as the source of the warmth in our homes. So in order for regular Mass attendance or Catholic education or youth group or any other good, or even family prayer to stick, our kids have to be able to connect the dots to see that our faith is making a tangible, practical difference in the warmth that they experience in the home, the amount we enjoy each other as a family, the way we process and deal with problems as a family. It's got to be lived out in our relationships first. And then when families are living that out in their relationships and the kids can see the faith making a difference in the kind of relationships we have in the home, then all the other stuff sticks. But without it, it's just throwing stuff at the wall.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, I'm telling you, I know that there's so many families right now, so many parents who have their eyes glued to this podcast right now on YouTube, or listening very intently right now, because they're like, yes, this is exactly what we're experiencing in our family. And let me before we continue, let me ask you this, Dr. Popchak. Because if you ask me right now for $50, right, and I went to my wallet and I open it, there's no money in there, right? So what does that mean? I can't give you what I don't have myself. How much do you see as far as, because the parents haven't received that kind of passion, that kind of faith themselves. Right. So is there a component here to help parents? Yes. Maybe kind of have that experience so they can pass that on to their kids?
Right. Well, and you were talking less about the importance of having a personal and intimate relationship with Christ. But the way we learn to do that is by having personal and intimate relationships in the family first, and then seeing how God is teaching us how to do that. We forget, especially as Catholics, that, for example, receiving the Eucharist is really about reordering our relationships with God and each other. When I receive Christ in the Eucharist, that is a beautiful gift, but of sacrificial love that's teaching me how to love differently. And it's supposed to make me want to go home and love my wife like Christ loves me, and love my kids like Christ loves me. But too often we experience communion, for instance, as an event. We go, we do the thing, we thank God for it, and then we go about our life. So we need formation, and I think this is a point that I've made to the National Eucharistic Congress, because we talked about this work with them a lot, that we need to bring the revival to the domestic church. Because when people encountered Christ in Scripture, everything about their life changed. Everything about the way they loved changed, right? Well, when we have a real encounter with the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ in the Eucharist, everything about the way we live together and love each other should change too. And the fact that we don't experience that undermines our belief in the real presence. Because if this is really Christ that we're receiving, it should make a real difference, right? Otherwise, it ain't real. And a lot of us go through the motions of saying it's real or thinking it's real or even believing it's real, but we don't experience that real encounter. So we need the church's support in teaching our families how to live that Eucharistic love in our homes. And so that's why we created this Catholic Households on Mission app, because a lot of us weren't raised this way, right? And we can't give it to our kids. And so, we like the idea. We present this, and parents are like, wow, this is it. I want this for my family. I want this for my kids. I want this for me. But I haven't got the first clue of how to begin to do it. And so that's why we said, well, how are we going to support families in living this out? So we created this app, which is CatholicHôM, HOM stands for Households on Mission, but it's not like other apps. So, a lot of apps you go to and you maybe get some static content on it, you use it. This is really a coaching app. It's about building relationship. So Lisa and I are on the app every day, along with our whole team of pastoral counselors and coaches. We are taking questions from subscribers every day about parenting issues, about family issues, about marriage topics, about how do I pray more meaningfully with my kids? How do I deal with this objection or this problem that I'm running into? Plus, we've got tons of resources on there with monthly downloadables, 3 different podcasts for Catholic moms, Catholic dads, and for families. We've got an animated, actually a cartoon series of 6 videos that introduce this whole idea of living this, what we call liturgy of domestic church life with your kids, so that it's not just parents dragging their kids through it, it's whole families working together to live a godly life and practice Christian discipleship at home. So it's a comprehensive Catholic family formation platform that where we're providing actual live pastoral accompaniment and coaching every day to Catholic families around the world, helping them live out these practices that we learned from families who successfully raised all their kids to a faithful adulthood.
And just quick, so is this app free?
No, there is a charge for it. We do provide the
okay.
information. So there's enough information, and because we really do believe this belongs to the church, that we want to teach families to live this liturgy of domestic church life framework. And in fact, for several years we did just do that and said, go run with it, And the feedback that we got, though, was from families saying, we would love to, but we don't know where to start, or we don't know how to get over this obstacle. And so the app actually costs us several $100,000 a year to run, and so we do need to charge something for it. But it's a pittance compared to the benefits that you're getting from it. And one subscription actually covers the whole family. So both mom and dad can use all the resources. Both mom and dad can ask questions. They don't need separate accounts for that. It's just one subscription for the whole family, and all the kids can enjoy all the fun resources we have on there for living your faith at home too. So it's a really powerful resource. In fact, we did a poll early on where we were asking, what difference is this making in your lives? And we found that over 85% of our subscribers say that within 2 weeks of regularly using the resources on the app and getting the coaching support, they're experiencing significant positive changes in the way their family life operates. It's really been powerful and beautiful to see how God is working in the lives of families who subscribe.
That's awesome. And the thing is, let's be real. We make significant investment in sending our kids to Catholic school. We make we spend huge amounts of money on sports and sporting activities and drama and all these other things, ballet, all these other things our kids are involved in. Can we make an investment in the faith of our family? Right, because we're talking about eternal rewards here.
Well, that's right. And there are lots of great resources out there, but I want to emphasize this. This is really based on research. This is not just Lisa and I saying, "Hey, these are good things for families to do." This is what the studies show that families who successfully raised all their kids to a faithful adulthood do, and we want to support you in living that out. So, for people who purchase an annual subscription, they get 2 months free. It's $149 for the year. For people who want to do a monthly subscription, it's $14.95 a month.
Oh, that's nothing. That's awesome.
Yeah. No, I think so. For what you're getting, and the fact that you and your spouse and your kids can all benefit from the resources. One of the reasons we did it is for example, counseling is really expensive, right? So like people will come to us and they'll pay $150 a session. But for this work, we're for $14.95 a month. We're getting you the daily support in living all this out and being able to really be that a domestic church. Not just a messy, crazy, busy family, but a real outpost of grace and God's love in a hurting world. And as I said in the introduction, I never really wanted to create an app, and I certainly don't. I don't want to build another business. That's not really what I'm in this for. God has given our family a tremendous gift. First, in the way I was raised, to really have this kind of intimate connection with the Lord, but the way we raised our kids to a faithful adulthood who are all really passionate, faithful Catholics. I want that for the families who are listening right now. I want that for you. And it breaks my heart that so many families don't have it. And so it's not just based on our own personal experience. It's rooted in that, but it's based on the research that really helps families do it. And I have to say that the things that we found from those families are things that we've done, just intuited. And the families that we share this with who say, you know what, that's our experience too. We've raised our kids to all be faithful. And the stuff you're saying, we did that too. Who'd have thunk it, So these things can be taught to other families, and that's what we're really trying to do on the Catholic Home app, to help families live what they maybe didn't experience for themselves, so that parenting can be a healing enterprise for them as well as for their kids.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers, and you're listening to Beacon of Truth. And today we're talking with Dr. Gray Popchak about an amazing program called Catholic Households on Mission. If you're wondering, how do you keep your kids Catholic? How do you keep them interested and engaged in the faith? How do we really live out a Eucharistic faith in the home, in our family? So receiving the Eucharist is not just the end of Mass, but it's also the beginning of how we truly live a dynamic and engaged family life with our Catholic faith. That's what we're talking about today on Beacon of Truth. Would love to hear from you. Send us an email, beacon@ewtn.com. All right. So I know that. Well, why don't you just give out the information? How can they get this? I mean, we're going to do it at the end too, but
sure.
I know a lot of people are chomping at the bit right now. Like, okay, I heard what he just said. Yes, I'm in. How do they get to that?
You can either go to CatholicHOM.com to learn more, CatholicHOM.com, or you can download the app from your Apple or Google Play Store and subscribe. So, it's as easy as all that. And then you access all the content through the app. In fact, we're even doing programs now for parishes where they can do a monthly Catholic Home parenting group based on resources that are available through the app. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create local communities of parents to support each other in living this out, but then using the app in between those monthly meetings to provide ongoing expert support and resources and opportunities to connect so that families can maintain a virtual connection even when they can't get to those monthly meetings. So, this way we've got an online community of Catholic families all around the world living this, and we're creating local communities supporting each other and living this out too. So we're really excited for that dimension of it. But you can download the app today at your Apple Store or Google Play, or you can go to CatholicHOM.com to learn more.
You said something really important that I want to dig into a little bit. You mentioned how you're doing this at the parish level. Now, I know there are many parishes that are trying to deal with this whole issue by saying, okay, let's do family catechesis. So typically what happens with the kids going for like first reconciliation or first communion classes or even confirmation classes, the parents drop them off, and then the youth group or the teachers, confirmation teachers, will take the kids while the parents go off and, have a drink or have dinner or something like that. Then they come back, pick the kids up, take the kids home, and they never talk about what the kids learned or experienced. So the solution that some parishes have come up with is family catechesis, which takes two forms. Either they do all the catechesis together along with the children in the same classroom, or they have a parallel program where the kids are in a classroom learning the things they need to know for first reconciliation, first communion, while the parents have at the same time, the parents have a class where they're learning about their faith, so that when they come back together and they go home, they have a platform to be able to discuss the things that they're learning and be able to integrate more into their faith. So how does Catholic households on mission work into that model?
Sure. Yeah, and and this is all brand new within the last year, so we're still educating parishes on how to use this. It's not meant to replace family catechesis. This is more about family formation than it is family catechesis. But here's what we've experienced from the parishes that are using family catechesis programs. A lot of times they're not getting the bang that they were hoping for, and as in talking with these parishes, the parable of the sower comes to mind, because the family catechesis programs, they're sowing seeds, they're throwing seeds out there, right? But you have some families that are really rocky soil. There's just not enough love and peace and harmony in the household for any of this stuff about God or faith to make sense on any practical level. And then you've got other families that are so busy with so many things. They get the seeds too, right? But then the shoots start to pop up, but then they get choked out because of all the activities and the busyness in those families' lives. But then, so what we need in order for family catechesis to work is a family formation program that helps us till the soil, to make families receptive to the seeds that we're sowing. And that's what CatholicHôM is really all about. We want to teach families that before they even learn about God or the faith, we want to show them God making a practical difference in the way they live together and love each other, which then makes them want to learn more about this God who is teaching them how to love differently, how to love on a deeper level, how to love more meaningfully. And that's really what family formation is all about. It supports the work that family catechesis is doing by helping families have a practical, we use a big word, phenomenological, personal experience of the gospel in their family lives, so they want to learn more about it, and they're able to teach their kids because they're living it already.
Yeah, and let me ask this as well. I absolutely agree with what you're saying. You're spot on. But what about, you talk about throwing seeds? What about those families where the parents themselves are struggling in their own marriage? Because I could tell you from experience as a child of a divorce, you can tell there's something wrong. Okay,
Sure.
I mean, here you are going to the catechesis, you're doing all this stuff, and you come home, and you could just something's not right with mom and dad, or they're fighting too much, and then as a kid you begin to blame yourself. Only if I acted better, if I studied more, because you kind of blame yourself for what's happening with your parent. So how is there some way to maybe look at that piece so that the CatholicHôM program can actually take deeper root in their lives as a family?
Well, actually, we have a whole section on CatholicHôM, which is all about marriage building resources. So we've got an online marriage retreat. We have a whole channel. So we have a DIY video section because we're kind of playing on the whole home thing, right? We have different channels on discipline. We have different channels on faith. We have different channels on family routines and rituals. And we have one channel on marriage building tips there as well. And of course, parents can also ask questions of our whole coaching team on marriage issues too, because marriage is the central part of family life. So if folks have questions about marriage issues, they're welcome to ask those too. I just want to emphasize that the CatholicHôM isn't about counseling. We can't provide that level of support. We can provide coaching and we can provide encouragement and connect people with resources. But if we do identify either a couple or a family who could really benefit from more faithful support, more personalized support, we can help them either find local resources to work with, or we can connect them with CatholicCounselors.com for that more professional support they might need. But we're there to help support couples as well as parents.
All right. Well, I'm Deacon Harold Burke-Sivers. You're listening to Beacon of Truth, and today we're talking with the host, along with his wife Lisa, of More to Life, Dr. Greg Popchak, about an amazing program, Catholic Households on Mission. We just got a few minutes left, Dr. Popchak, and I just want to ask, okay, what about families whose kids are already out of the house? And maybe they're young adults now, or they're in college, or maybe they have young families and they're not practicing faith, grandkids aren't baptized, they're struggling. Is there something in Catholic Households on Mission for them?
Yes, I would say that it's not primarily for them. It's primarily for parents who are bringing their kids up. We do have other resources for those families. Lisa and I did a book called Having Meaningful, Sometimes Difficult Conversations with Our Adult Sons and Daughters, which isn't just about having talks with them, but it's about building the kind of relationship that makes our kids receptive to sharing the gospel with them and other meaningful conversations. So, but then we also do provide support for some families on Catholic Home in living that out. But I would say that the main resource for that would be our book, Having Meaningful, Sometimes Difficult Conversations with Adult Sons and Daughters, and our radio program, More to Life, as well.
And so maybe with grandparents then, like if they're spending time with their grandkids,
Yes.
would this be something that grandparents can do?
It is actually.
Little of
Research
their-
really shows
yeah.
that grandparents play a really underappreciated role in faith transmission, and so we do have grandparents on there who are using the downloadables when their grandkids come over or when they babysit their grandkids, who are using the framework that we teach to order their relationship with their grandkids, to kind of make their grandkids really see that there's something different about when we go to grandma's house. When we go to grandpa's house, there's something different about the atmosphere here and the love that I experience, and I want that. And that gives grandparents a way to say, well, this is coming from Jesus, who loves you even more than I do.
Oh man, that is so awesome, man! I'm telling you, this is going to be a show for the ages. I'm telling you, so many people are going to want to hear. So tell us again, Dr. Popchak, how can people get a hold of Catholic Households on Mission?
Download the Catholic HOM app on Apple or Google Play, or go to CatholicHOM.com to learn more.
Oh man, you share this episode far and wide with all your friends and family members who are struggling with kids who are away from the church and want to build a deeper relationship with Christ. Well, tomorrow we're going to talk about Epiphany and what that means in the life of the church. Remember, you can stream today's show by visiting Podcast Central at EWTN.com/radio. May Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Amen.